welcome to Banking Frontiers, the next topic of discussion, boosting return on AI. AI, as you know, has been a very interesting topic for almost a century. There have always been thoughts about robots coming and interacting with human beings. And at least in the software world, we have robots. Even in the hardware world, we have robots. Today, we're going to focus more on software robots in our discussion today and how the financial sector can actually leverage them and go ahead. So robots and artificial intelligence is the common theme that we are looking at today. I have four panelists with me, and we'll go through this discussion for about an hour. To introduce myself, my name is Manoj Agrawal. I'm the group editor at Banking Frontiers, and we have had the pleasure of hosting many such discussions and covering many such topics in the magazine Banking Frontiers and our video channel Banking Frontiers Live. So I welcome everyone to the show, and I request everyone to briefly introduce themselves and get familiar with each other. Maybe Prasanna can start.
Yeah, so Manoj, thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm Prasanna Loar from DCB Bank. I work there as a digital innovation and architecture head. Yeah.
Thank you, Prasanna. Tarun, your introduction, please.
Hi everyone. Great to be here. I'm Tarun Mathur. I head strategy and innovation at Edelweiss General Insurance. Really passionate about the subject in context, and look forward to learning from all of you.
Wonderful. Good to have you here, Tarun. Puneet, your brief intro, please.
Yeah, I'm Puneet Kaur-Kohli, and I'm working as a Chief Technology Officer for Universal Sompo General Insurance Company Limited. Thank you.
Thank you, Puneet. Welcome. And Neeraj.
Yeah, quickly. So my name is Neeraj Natle, and I lead the solution consulting for enterprise business for Blue Prism India and South Asia. Very interesting topic, Manoj. Thank you so much for choosing it, and looking forward to contribute and learn something new. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and welcome everyone. So let's start our discussion. And before we begin, I'm just really happy to say that I felt very happy once we conceptualized this topic, return on AI, ROAI. ROI is of course used all the time. Now ROAI sounded very catchy and meaningful as well. So two in one. So my first question to all the panelists is AI actually the most overhyped technology by the technology community or by the overall community as such? Is AI the most understood technology, especially in the BFSI sector? If there is a gap like this, if it is a huge gap, then why is it so? And if the gap is not huge, then please explain, whichever way.
Very, very interesting topic and question, and very pertinent because, as you said, AI has been there for decades, but we're still debating here today whether it is overhyped still or less understood even today. So I feel while technology has its own pace of evolution, and every technology takes its own time and adoption and consumer adoption and implementation. AI has also gone through that, is also going through that phase. And emerging technologies like AI or the other ones, they are all, they are not standalone technologies, I would say, while, they are a domain in themselves, but they also depend on the digital maturity of adjacent infrastructure, application, fields.
Right.
All of them have to grow together. So I would say while AI, has gone through that curve, is still going through that phase. But in the recent few years, with so much of data explosion happening, I think it has found a good, good space, good use cases across industries where its potential has been demonstrated. Okay. And I think it's slowly finding its way into, real monetizable value.
Okay. Yes, it's moving from fiction to monetization. That's very interesting. Cool. Let's hear from maybe Prasanna.
Artificial intelligence is now is a reality. It is no more hype. And if we say that it is a hype and let's not do, or let's do just because of hype, I think will not be able to give a justice to this technology. So I think we keep on hearing many new technologies like blockchain, AI, or IoT, or any of those augmented reality or quantum computing. So in the race of emerging technology, AI is highly adopted and used technologies. What we had seen mobility, right, in way back in 90s, whether the mobile phones will be reality or so on, when we had these Motorola's phones or big phones, and we used to pay around 100 rupees or so many rupees for a single call, right? And we always say it is a liberty or for a rich people. But now it has become a, I think I have two phones, right? And many more Indians, I think more than 60-70% Indians has a phone now. And they see, this is how is the adoption. What Tarun has said, AI was always there, but in recent time the technology is evolved nicely, and it is being evolved the way infrastructure, other infrastructure technologies are available. Say example, cloud computing, right? Say example, for a civil like a company or some company who is having huge number of data, or healthcare company, if they want to do some kind of a AI or some learning out of that data, we require lot of infrastructure, right, in a layman's language. But while cloud is there, we can elongate the hardware and do that computation within no time or within a required time. Okay, so that's one of the example. And today, when you talk about insurance company or banking or any of the organization who is serving to their customer, or organizations who are looking forward to save some cost or to do some operation excellence or to give engage services to the customer, we can always do it manually, right? Say example,
Right.
if I have to engage you, how Manoj is doing his banking, then I have to keep a one special person for you who will track you day to day, ask you what is your need. Okay, if this is a need, I think you should do this and that. Now this overall structure I can do it, and it will incur a lot of cost. Now with the help of artificial intelligence, artificially I can understand all of my customers at once after reading their transactions, and I can immediately give a notification back based upon your need. This is what I can offer you. This is another product for you, or this is something cross sell. A loan is available for you. I think based upon your habit, I think you should this particular transaction. I think this is now the complete manual task can be automated with the help of artificial intelligence and many other technologies which surrounding around AI. It could be RPA or could be machine learning, could be deep science, and so it's an AI is a bigger ecosystem. And today, if any of the organization, or I can say simply in the word, data is very, very important now, right? Because what data we have now today, it is a multifold. Every transaction is now getting into another type of data or another kind of a transaction, so that we can understand that data properly, right? Now the organization who will not use data properly, they will be extinguished, they will be vanished the way Nokia's or Kodak's has vanished, right? Or the organizations who will utilize their data properly, and to utilize their data properly, I think we need big data, Hadoop, or another these AI and all those technology. If they will not do it, another organization will surpass them, will move ahead. That is why AI in a nutshell is a reality, and we need to adopt it. If you are not doing it now, I think time is now. Otherwise, tomorrow you will not be there. I think. I think Russian president has said once, countries who will utilize their data properly, those will be powerful countries in the future. So, so that is how we have to see that. Everybody says data is oil, and at the same time, green is privacy is another green. So these are all facts now for all of us to serve. Ultimately, we are serving for the customers, right? And in this competitive, collaborative world, AI is a change agent, and it has to be there in your data centers if you really want to make some difference for your customers.
I like that term, change agent.
Yeah.
Because change is a constant. So any agent that is with you as a change agent is a constant.
Rather, it is a radical change agent. It is not a change agent just like other things. It's a radical change agent, right? Yeah.
Is AI, artificial intelligence, is it a hype still, or is it real? And if it is a hype, why is it so misunderstood?
So
are we still living in the movie world as far as AI is concerned, or are we living in the real world?
Okay, so I would suggest that people who have implemented and reaped the benefits are still in the actual phase, and people who are still thinking of doing it and crossing the fingers is still a hype for them. So, the ultimate is that yes, artificial intelligence is no more a hype. Intelligence which is created artificially through technology. That's about artificial intelligence. What we can talk about. So I fully agree with what Tarun talk about and he spoke about. I agree with Prasanna as well. Reason being that artificial intelligence is something which gets embedded with any new technology. It talks about an algorithm, whether it is any new emerging technology, be it robotics process automation, blockchain, or probably maybe cloud computing, or it talk about anything, any new technology, even in so much called the traditional way of development coding on Python, .NET, Java, whatever. What defines artificial intelligence is an algorithm which gets defined by the domain expertise. A domain expertise is where we are the innovators. If we see we are the product guys, no, we will be wrong. We are the technology innovators. The people, a collaboration, what artificial intelligence brings to the table in terms of professional and personal life, or a personalization, which is Web 5.0, is playing a very big role. Either it is soft bots, what will enable that artificial intelligence and make you work like, and give a smart intelligence and power you with good analytics to, so that business takes smart decisions in terms of their prescriptive and predictive analysis. Or it could be humanoids, which are called hard bots, right? The humanoids which are artificial enabled, and they will do and substitute the humans and do all the work which they are programmed to do as a day-to-day operations. So this is how the artificial is evolving. You talk about so many bots, the markets, you talk about so much billion-dollar market is in Amazon today in terms of humanoids, in terms of soft bots. What is it? So it is all powered by artificial intelligence. So in financial services, when we talk about in insurance or in NBFCs and all, what we talk about, we say we define rule engines. If we talk about the traditional way of working on the loan origination systems to LOS to LOR, basically loan processing systems and all. So what we should have smart decision engines, which probably with the domain expertise, people who are real experienced on the front end who are disbursing the loans, they know what are the different mindset, what are different scenarios. They will come together with technology and define that these are certain areas, what if analysis, these are the SWOT analysis, these are the associated risks. They define a complete plethora of the understanding which a business analyst writes and gets embedded and tweaks it in the form of a code and develops and embeds into your core engine. That is how artificial intelligence is helping the organizations today. And where I will say that it is reaping benefits is in terms of where exactly you're using really artificial intelligence. You talk about in terms of networks, it talks about information security, artificial and enabled information security. We talk about virtual private VPNs, we talk about vulnerability assessment and all. The repeated nature of the vulnerabilities which it becomes more of a historical incidents, and you would never like to repeat them in your rule engines, right? So they get defined. Those are the risks that have been taken, that we will not repeat the mistakes that we have done in the past and try to power up every time. So every version, it's an ongoing process. It's going to benchmark your rule engines also. Any new scenarios out of the box which gets programmed becomes your scenario which gets embedded as a form of a new version in those rule engines. So this is what artificial intelligence is playing as a big role for us.
Great. I think all of you have described it very well, given different examples, given different contexts. So we're forming the big
so
picture.
Manoj, yeah. So Manoj, probably, so you said hype. So I would just like to throw some insights on why some perceive it as a hype. So typically what we say is that optical character recognition as a technology was founded in 1974, and that particular technology, it could extract data from images and documents and convert the unstructured information into structured for the further ingestion into the source applications. Now today still we see that there are many enterprises that are still doing this document extraction piece manually. So as Puneet rightly said, the enterprises, that those have reaped benefit, for them it is reality. But we have seen many enterprises where still this very mundane tasks are still manual and labor intensive. So for them, it is hype. So that is where, many times we feel that there are technologies that are very basic, but still are not being used in many areas. So I think that is where the hype is coming from.
You're right about that. I mean, AI is definitely a technology that has now become mainstream, as so many examples are there. And even in forget the enterprise space, even in the consumer space today, it is possible for people like you and me to start using AI in our day-to-day activities, whether we're using Alexa for making a booking or using something on our phone for doing something. But one good, I think, thing that Prasanna had pointed out was that automation and intelligence, when they're working together, that's when the results are being achieved.
Yeah,
My
I
next
think,
question is actually
yeah.
about achieving these results. So we know how to measure human intelligence, and we've been doing this for thousands of years. Okay. Now, when we're looking at measuring artificial intelligence, measuring the effectiveness of artificial intelligence, should we use more of human paradigms or more of traditional IT paradigms? Or do we really need some kind of third paradigm to figure out how effective AI systems really are? Suppose you have to benchmark 3 AI systems or 10 AI systems and kind of grade them or give some feedback. So individually, it is possible to do that. But human beings, we compare each other's intelligence. We have IQ tests and whatnot. What kind of IQ test or something parameter can you figure out to measure the effective intelligence of an AI system, whether it's running standalone or whether it's running as a part of a bigger ecosystem? Prasanna, you were saying something.
Yeah, so I see. I was just supporting what you said now. So, say example, mobility is become integral part of our life, right? And mobility is a front end. So now, say I'll give an example of banking, right? Say example, yesterday I used to walk down till branch and to do a fund transfer or to balance inquiry, right? And that is a reality in some of the villages also. I had to go walk down and do the fund transfer. I think during demonetization, I must have interviewed so many people. People used to walk down for 10 kilometer, 5 kilometer to reach branch. And at the end of the day, they used to see that branch is closed because of some network is not there or something like that.
Correct.
Now, as a evolution of this ecosystem, now what we have done, we started with internet banking, mobile banking, right? Now, like for people like us, it is always reality, right? To do a fund transfer on UPI, Google Pay, Phone Pay. And just imagine our life without that. Then we'll start struggling, right? We'll go to the some ATM and try to take out cash and give some in somewhere in Mumbai also. In if you go to Crawford Market, UPI or Phone Pay doesn't work, right? You will have to use cash out there. So now that's a reality. Now when I look at my banking, this is what I have done: a unidirectional banking or omni-channel banking through multiple channels, mobile, internet, or contact center, or we are talking about the chatbots and so on, right? So now eventually this unidirectional I have created with the help of omni-channel architecture, wherein customer can talk to multiple channels and every channel know what is happening for the same transaction in other channel. Say example, I start my transaction on a laptop while searching how is this laptop. And I go to the Vijay Sales, and Vijay Sales people says, sir, you were searching for some laptop on a mobile, and I think this is something which is possible for you. So the transaction started at a mobile channel and it ended at a branch channel, where that it is shopping mall or somewhere, right? The whole process, like suppose Manoj sir wants some loan, right? And all of a sudden my branch manager already knows Manoj sir wants a loan for his home, which he was looking at. Now just imagine, how do I measure this, right? Say example, if I in suppose there are 10 lakh customers in my bank database, right? I have to call everybody and understand everybody whether they require loan or not. At the same time, I can create an algorithm, and based upon their past transaction, where they have done transactions, buying, selling properties, or traveling somewhere, I can really give us a notification. I think this person is really looking for a financial need for this purpose. That's how I can measure. Instead of doing so many calls, so much of manual operation to reach out to the potential customer, with the help of AI, I can immediately give back a 10 lakh or a 10,000 loan on the spot, because I understand he's a risk or credibility to pay back the loan. This is what some of the fintechs are doing or some banks are doing, right? So that's how I can measure.
If I may summarize, what you're saying is that the measurement of intelligence comes from looking at the business angle. How
Business
much,
angle.
uh,
So that's
business
one
can I
example.
generate,
So
or how much faster can I do it?
I'll give another example which I was talking about, omni-channel architecture. Now customer journeys on all the channels, right? Now how as another channel I can understand what he was doing on other mobile channel, right? That is again AI to understand what he was doing, and based upon how do I really offer him the better service. Okay, so
Right.
now the better part with the AI is that your unidirectional channels where I am starting my transaction from mobile and checkbook request or something, right? And it happens there and there itself. But in a bi-directional channel, what happens in a backend AI understand what is this transaction all about, and immediately I said to Tarun, I think for this you were saving some amount for insurance, and why are you doing this extra transaction for this refrigerator, right? That intelligence comes out there and there itself instead of in front of a customer. Like
Very interesting.
these are all measurement aspects. Or say example, I am sitting with the 25 call center agents, and tomorrow I am sitting with the only 2 call center agents for human touch, and rest of the 23 call center agents are converted into bots for a repetitive kind of queries, right?
Okay.
So that is how we can measure for every business process how much I am saving on a man cost or manual cost, how much I was doing that earlier, and here onwards what is that more better service I can provide, which I was not able to give with the help of existing channels. So I think these 2-3 parameters we can consider: existing service, how better I am doing it, and what more service I am providing, how my operational cost is reduced. Say typically RPA, any RPA process we do, it takes 3 to 6 months to really do some ROI on that RPA, right? So
Okay.
that's another angle, huh? Like Manoj sir, like AI will give a ROI, but there is always an investment to create that AI engine and complete infra around that particular use case,
Correct.
right? So I may say that I may say that I am taking 2 minutes to create 600 users, which 2 people where I was using earlier, but to create that RPA utility, it takes around 5 to 6 lakh rupees, which might be a salary of that 2 people for a whole 1 year,
Right.
right? So there are different parameters we can altogether. I think let's hear from other experts and
So
understand.
you have
Yeah.
given 3-4 business cases that really describe a way of measuring the efficiency and the utility that one can get out of AI.
Yeah.
Puneet and Tarun, any other ways that you see of getting the efficiency or getting the measurement? If a CFO were to ask you, then in what terms would you kind of explain the ROI?
So I said that, like, from a CHRO perspective, definitely a replacement of, bots with the human touch, basically more or less or more of bots, and, in each process power. So that is something where he can reap the benefits out of these bots, artificial intelligence based. But from a CFO perspective, you have to, be very clear, especially, the process in terms financial processes, which are the back office processes, which are in terms of financial services you do on a day-to-day operations level, where you do a manual intervention, Excel uploads, all those automation, customizations, and all that stuff. This can be substituted through artificial intelligence also. Bots can do in terms of a smart intelligence, or probably a powered bots through an AI can do a recurring process which is repeated in nature. Something which is like in month-end data that you do, a processing in terms of your databases, in terms of your schedulers, in terms of your the back-end process which tells you that which is required. From regulatory perspective, we have to submit the data to different regulators from time to time. If an intelligence is put on all these areas and automated in terms of with the scheduled job, scheduled activities, so there would be no manual intervention. It will be only notifications. It can only be in terms of alerts that when this gets scheduled, when it gets finished, and if there is a job failure, then that alert also through system will come. This is all happening due to artificial intelligence, which is programmed within the software, which talks about. Now people have to see what approach they have to learn. Either they want to embed into their core systems, or they want to power through a a platform based approach. A platform can be developed whether in-house or it can be taken through a COTS application, and we can embed AI as a service in different arguments. It's not about you have to pick up, one product and deploy and you become only and dependent on that. God forbids that product is no more in use. The company gets closed. What can happen? So the entire dependency goes. So we have to finalize where exactly the one is the advantages and the far-sightedness of the things also in the growing scenarios in the pandemic, where you've seen so many people came up with an AI kind of a, smart fintech startups or some startups.
Yes.
But where exactly are those companies today? They are not even having a seed funding to have their survival in the market. So you have to see the service of the technology, which it reaps its benefits. It's not that the wave entire world is moving, whether you are programmed, your customer, or your probably your ecosystem or the domain that you're serving, whether it's a real need to put that as a service or not. That is a use case which a CTO has to probably tell as a whiteboard to or a buy-in from a CFO or his management or her management. Yes, this is the case of ROI. Do pilots, small, build up small minimum viable products and put it on the pilot for 90 days, 100 days, and give out and reap the benefits and throw it to the business back. That this is the things, how to reap the benefits of any new technology, not being only artificial intelligence, it can be any technology. AI is going along, it's a hand in hand. Like information security goes hand in hand, AI will be a part and parcel of any technology you
Yeah.
Good examples, Puneet. Very good examples. Very practical example that anyone can understand. Tarun, anything,
so-
something different from
Yeah, so
you?
probably, so I would just like to add
Neeraj.
what Puneet said. So Prasanna told that how can we quantify the benefits of AI, what we call it as a hard benefit or soft benefit. But there is third angle to it, as Puneet said. So what is the time to demonstrate the value? So what is the time to prototype and what is the time to fail or pass? Because the AI is utilized for complex business problem, and more or less the AI model can fail or can pass. So is that time to prove value, is that long or short? That is the first parameter. The other
Right.
parameter is how can you scale the AI technology from one department to other. For example, if there is an AI model built to digitize the documents for say KYC documents, can we use the same technology to digitize digitize invoice documents? So we need not duplicate that effort, and we should create broad AI that could be lifted and shifted to multiple department that we're working. And third, and the most important, is that the governance of AI. What is the cost that we are paying to govern that AI? Are we sure that this new AI system will not bring any security vulnerability into our system? So beyond what values that the Prasanna or Puneet said, these three values are also very, very key.
Very interesting. May I ask Tarun now one question? And my question to you, Tarun, is: are the recent AI projects, are they being driven by technology teams or by business teams or something else in general in your organization? Or if you look at the entire sector as a whole, are they driven more of an experimental nature or, really ready to use and get benefits?
I mean, if I can speak of my firm and what the approach which we have taken, we have really understood the importance of implementing AI and associated technologies. And yes, as you rightly said, we've taken an experimentation approach. So we believe that having a digital greenfield where there is a test and learn approach will help us, really get the value out of this technology. We also understand, and Prasanna and Puneet really pointed out earlier. See, there are so many vendors, and as you said, there is no standard test to gauge the maturity of each solution, right? So you have to, really believe that AI adoption will be driven by a business mindset.
Okay.
So I really liked when Puneet said that AI will be embedded, right? It will be infused into strategy, into innovation, into operation. That's when the real value of AI will be, will emerge. To your question of have we identified areas? Yes, we have. We have, consciously decided that business, you're looking at the business objective and then working backward to see which technology or what will work best for it. And we have identified cases, we've seen a proliferation of AI startups, as Puneet was also referring to, that, and there are so many, and we find it difficult to even evaluate or, benchmark them against each other. So
Okay.
what we feel is we definitely have identified areas like, claims, contact center. That's where we see conversational AI chatbots, being adopted. We see fraud detection and prevention as one important area.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
and we are, for these 3-4 areas, we have, engaged the teams and, we've combined business and technology together to,
Okay.
really come up with, the identified business outcome.
Okay. If I may ask Prasanna another question. Within AI also, it's not like a very standardized technology like an Intel chip. There are so many technologies per se, and then there are even larger number of technology companies offering all kinds of solutions. Is it really a challenge? Do you like to take an organizational approach towards AI, or do you want AI to fit in whatever fits wherever in different business scenarios, different data types? How do you look at it? Do you try to unify it or keep it customized?
So I think, and it all depends upon type of organization. Say a cooperative bank kind of organization, that CTO will start playing the AI expert role, right? But I think some banks like Paytms or some bank who has some power to invest something, they will create a separate center of excellence around the COE and keep on identifying first area where all we can implement or those use cases, right? Say, if example, I am identifying around 300 areas, say example, mid-size or a large size bank. And then again, say example, you said AI and there are different flavors of AI like RPA or a chatbot or conversational banking, or I can implement at a fraud risk tool, or I can implement some intelligence automation on top of AI, or I can implement some machine learning behind conversational banking. Now, after identifying these many use cases based upon my pocket size, I can decide which are the top 3 or top 10 use cases I can implement in next 6 months and reassess. Is there any need of to implement in existing process, and I can go for a next 10 use cases. So that way I can really look forward. But I think it should be a unified approach at an organization level. How do we adopt AI? Say example, some of the bank has AI officers or data officers, right? Typically at S Bank we have a AI officer. At a DCB we have a separate unit of data and AI, where is a team of around 12-13 people who are working around always on that aspect. I think that gives an focus. How do we, and that will not distract ongoing your digital transformation journey. But at the same time, there is a question always people ask, right? AI will come and vanish, some of the jobs will go off, right?
Yes.
So it is not like that. It is always like PCs came or computers came, our work has enhanced now. We are always glued with the PCs and laptops and so on, right? Similarly, AI will come and create new roles like AI officer, data scientists, right? These are new roles and they are much more required roles. So in a nutshell, so that we'll hear from others, so at an organization it has to be a board strategy to adopt AI or any of those new technologies, and it should start with some governance structure, some people coming, maybe existing people or hire new people or reskill existing people, and these people will drive that center of excellence agenda to adopt a new tech. They will work with IT security guys, infra guys to create those ecosystems and work with the various application units to use them, right, in ongoing use cases. Now the challenge or beauty of AI is that it is ever changing. It's like that today you are utilizing this algorithm and tomorrow it could be some other enhanced algorithm out there or some other tech. So we have to be always on toes to adopt new things which are coming into AI, right? But in a nutshell, when you look at AI today, I think Tarun and ma'am Tarun Neeraj will agree with me that today AI is like a supervised AI. It is not a general AI or some supernatural key automatically. Say example, our conference is going on, right? and there is an algorithm who is learning from it, and automatically tomorrow Prasanna is not needed, Manoj is not needed, Neeraj is not needed. Automatic conference is going on, people are coming and they are very happy with the views of Prasanna because they have learned everything about Prasanna, how he talks for the particular questions. So we can reach to that level, but that is I think people will not really go for that. But there are some questions, right, by Bill Gates and all. I think we should ask bots to pay taxes, right? So if you are really so I think that's a way to look at it. But in a nutshell, I think it has to be a organization level strategy. But again, it depends upon type of organization. If it's a very small organization or a very large organization, some of the organization, Google, etc., they have a different companies within a Google, right? Only around AI, and they moreover they are acquiring many more AI companies.
Yes.
So that could be this is my view. Yeah.
Got it. Very interesting, Prasanna. Punit, do you prefer that center of excellence approach, or do you see some other approach that is better?
I always prefer for any new technology a center of excellence approach when it leads to its maturity level. Definitely.
Oh.
Then it becomes a COE. As I shared with you, that any MVP which reaps its benefits and it is very doable, which can be embedded as a part of a successful Go pilot, and then probably it can be embedded within the core processes of the system, and it reaps its benefit where people, process, technology, conversion, and the data is on top of it. And then basically when these 3 or 4 things are being addressed, I think so any technology work wonders. So then that is a maturity level of an organization to see, yes, we are geared for this new technology and acceptance has come. It's not about a technology department giving all these new technologies. It's about the usage of these tools also, which is being used into the system. That's also something which have to be taken as an acceptance level. What is the next level? What is the guarantee that we are doing? So awareness at every level, that is something which we really need to be given. So center of excellence approach, why I need for it, if any technology is bearing very good pilots, 3 or 4 successful use cases for me, which will enable me to give a center of excellence approach, would not necessarily that I will be putting my technology guys in it. I will pick up MCOMs from the universities. I can pick up people from statistics background, make them learn Python and do the artificial intelligence. I can create them. And that I have done in my many Austral organizations.
Okay.
And it has created that. So you not need necessarily a technology background to do that. A domain understanding, an understanding of your business, where exactly the pain areas of the business, if that gets addressed through without manual intervention, without the use of technology, I think that would be the best judge. So I would say a center of excellence should do a process discovery. There should be a program management which can be decided that any person who can be 10 to 12 years into the core system, he understands his business better. He can be trained, he can be skilled up, and he says that this is, you become the domain expert. We can collaborate 2-3 people from technology who will enable those technology for you. Okay. And there could be freshers who can be brought as a fresh blood or anything. And there could be 2-3 people who showed interest out of the other departments. And we do a full-fledged process discovery and ask what out of the 10 particular departments or the customer facing, even on the customer side, where they said, where exactly are we failing? This particular pain area is not getting addressed, even repeated failures, whether it is cross-sell, upsell, omni-channel experience, client engagement is not happening. We are losing calls in call centers. We are having churns. We are having call drops. Artificial intelligence plays these roles very, very humongously. So that is the area where the use cases of the business particular department has to do and address. And that is the prioritization which technology can never define. That is from the business which gets defined, and artificial intelligence can, basically can give you a turnaround time and go to market faster.
Very interesting explanation you have given about the new kind of center of excellence. For example, if I were to think in terms of a center of excellence for vaccines, I would have lots and lots of vaccine PhDs. But you say you can get a BCom, MCom guy who doesn't know AI and still put him and get him or her and get the results out of that team. I think that's fantastic, because now super specialization is no longer an entry barrier into a center of excellence. Even a person
I have experienced it in Manapur when my I have experienced this in my erstwhile organization, Manapuram. I created 9 center of excellences and only 2 or 3 people per center of excellence was only in technology, which were PLSQ enablement or any kind of a tech background guy. Rest, everybody was either from the branch operations, 3 years old or probably fresh.
So anyone who talks about job loss should be taught about the future opportunities in center of excellence.
Exactly. And so Puneet, so I completely agree with you. In fact, so one of the core features of AI platform is, does it support to democratize the technology? Can that technology be used by anyone who has some sort of inclination towards technology? So I've personally seen, the customers of Blue Prism, like Deutsche Bank is a very big name, where the business user, they themselves, they do process discoveries, they do designs, they configure automations without even knowing that Blue Prism runs on .NET technology and SQL. They can do drag and drop, and they could configure complex automation. So yes, typically IT team will govern that how Blue Prism or any other RPA platform is used.
Okay.
But the actual key to value should be with the business team. So that even we have seen it working very well.
I never focused on any product because I don't want to be on this platform. It is a partner agnostic platform. So that this is not right for me as a technology leader to speak. But a basic RPA or a basic Python function or any artificial intelligence or any technology works only and only on process discovery, be it a traditional way or a modern way of doing things. It's how you articulate. We are the innovators. We are not the domain expertise. We can collaborate if we learn. Technology is our first front. Second, if we have domain experts, then in Hindi we call it Sohne pe Suhaga. So that's what we are going to do.
Okay. Neeraj, I want to drill further into what you just said. What are the different ways that some of your financial sector clients in India and even outside India, they're using AI and automation more effectively to, scale up the business or to diversify the business or whatever the business objective.
Okay.
So
All right.
center of excellence is one technique. What else, if anything else?
See, so Blue Prism today has almost 2,000 plus customers globally, out of which around 80% plus customers are from the banking field, from BFSI field. So what we have seen is that the way the customer derive value from Blue Prism is into 3 stages: stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. Typically, stage 1 is where the tasks are getting automated. I mean, for example, if you talk about the loan origination as a process end to end, and there are various stages in loan origination, like reading the KYC documents or doing the credit checks or loan approval. So those are multiple activity. So typically, customers will automate activity, then end-to-end process. I mean, in that, the entire end-to-end, the same example, the loan origination, from the point where the customer applies for the loan to the point where the loan is credited to the customer account. So that end-to-end process is automated. Then stage 3 is process redefined as per the customer. So that is, how can the process be omni-channel? So customers are able to apply loan from various channels, and the loan approvals are instantly. So every enterprise will go through this maturity. They will start small, then they will automate processes, then they will redefine the business function that way. And that is where, Blue Prism, so Blue Prism founded as a robotic process automation company. We are back in 2002. But 3 years back, from 2017 and 18, so we have infused a lot of complex AI features like document extraction and sentiment analysis and natural language processing and machine learning. And what we are seeing is that customers are orchestrating processes on Blue Prism, and wherever they require complex algorithm to work, they use this Blue Prism feature. So the same case of loan origination. So earlier also, without using natural language processing, the loan origination process was automated. But now with this sophisticated technology to for Blue Prism to be able to ingest the KYC documents, multiple. So today India has around 40 plus KYC documents accepted by banks. So Aadhaar card, ration card, PAN card, passport, and believe me, every state will have a different version of driving license. Driving licenses are 2 types, 4-wheeler and 2-wheeler. So it is very difficult to have some sort of unified model that could work across the various classes of document. So stage number one is go with the basic automation. Step number two, infuse more complex automations with document processing or sentiment analysis or natural language processing and so on. So that is where our customers are generating value from Blue Prism.
And you said 80% of your customers are banks.
Yes.
So then do you have banking solutions like almost ready to use? Like an Infosys has core banking and people have.
So same as so Tarun said that typical areas in banking like claim processing for insurance, then fraud detection is a very big area. So there is a Blue Prism bolt-on that is integrated on Finacle that could go through the core banking system and could find out the anomalies that what bank accounts or what bank transactions can be potential fraudulent. KYC, as I've said, the customer interaction, contact center. So there are various bolt-ons that are ready to use to solve the various cases.
Okay. So how do you see AI progressing now the next 1 or 2 years? Is it going to be driven more by business requirements? Is it going to be driven more by innovations in technology like Neeraj just described, automatic document processing and automatic fraud processing and whatever? So either business or technology or more of centers of excellence coming up with solutions. What do you see in general as the drivers of the next generation of AI in the financial sector?
Can I take that answer?
Yeah, Puneet, please.
So that's basically would work as a co-creation model.
Co-creation.
Just started. It will be a co-creation model. Definitely, because everybody will be realizing artificial intelligence is a survivor, and people would be looking for it. Would be not anymore a machine learning. It would be further and enhanced further as a deep learning now. A deep learning, basically. So deep learning would have a 3-step process further. Basically, one was only needed in terms of mitigating the risk which one could identify, and artificial intelligence could play a very big role. A deep learning would be in terms of how did we, sorted those problems which were in the past. That becomes your historical, areas. And when you want to see some analysis which you want to do for your future businesses or your future, any kind of in personal or professional, whatever way you want to take it. So that would enable to understand what and how did we play about it in terms of what was the root cause for that pain area and how it got addressed. So it will be more in terms of mitigating the risk, more in terms of a root cause analysis and a deep learning of an understanding that, much more, what next. So every time it will be a new learning. So it will not be anything which will be talking in terms of months or years. It will be the next movement change, the next movement. What is the next movement for us? So that is how the artificial intelligence is moving now. If it has overpowered bots in the Chinese markets, Everbird, people are like, I would say that people have stopped getting married, reason being that bots is the source of entertainment for them, right? Humanoids. So that is a kind of world which is moving with all these artificial intelligent powered bots. So you can see what is the new wave. That is the new wave.
Interesting. Prasanna, what is your view on the next generation of AI?
So I totally agree with what Puneet ma'am said. Okay, so I think AI is already becoming normal technology, right? And now here onwards, so I think this, when we talk about this technology, right? So we have seen industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, and 5.0 or a society 5.0 is one term which we coined for industry 5.0, where technology will have no role, okay? Because technology will be always there. What is the role is needed that people will be hungry for more of a peace and or lifestyle. Okay, so they will not, it will be so much of automation everywhere. Then like you and me will look at the time for how do we become human, something like actual life, right? Which we really aspire for. So that will be the era. I think we are, because I think we are in mid of a 4.0 and 5.0, this is what I can see in a nutshell, because it's not only AI, but there are other technology also will influence this whole journey. As Puneet was saying, right? AI, not only AI will be always part of any of those applications, right? Like the way database is part of every web or application. That's how I can look at this whole journey. And if you look at how this adoption will happen, say if you will not do, some other industry will do it. And we always look at cross industry innovation, right, which we have seen from retail to come to agriculture, or from agriculture to banking and this and that. But I think AI is everywhere these days, and there are no options to say no to AI. Things will change when governments and policymakers will come and say how much to automate, right? What to automate and when to automate. I think that is going to be very, very important. Otherwise, there will be a robo as a PM of any of the country, which will take and will really govern how to run a country. So that is possible, right? It's very much possible. We have seen in movies, and it is possible. I think these are some thoughts from my end. Yeah.
So if I may, summarize it in one line. Next generation AI is going to be kind of magical, and beyond that, it may be fiction. We could merge fiction and reality. The fiction that we have seen in movies might actually come into being the way you are describing, Prasanna.
Yeah.
The robotic PM and those kind of things. So let's hear from Tarun. What do you see? What is your picture of emerging
I think
AI?
Puneet and Prasanna have really summed it up really well, and I concur that it will be embedded into processes. It won't be a standalone thing, and real benefit will come from a convergence of multiple adjacent technologies, be it IoT, blockchain, RPA, whatever, cloud. So, but the good thing is that people, organization, professional experts, we all are understanding the importance and the potential of this technology, the importance of the underlying data governance and the infrastructure capabilities required. I think it'll cause profound change to the way processes are currently in various enterprises. It'll cause it'll be a driver of profitable growth and transformation. Since data is becoming the DNA, AI definitely will continue to proliferate even more. And I don't know if we'll see whatever Prasanna has described as in the futuristic vision which he has just shown us, but we surely are in for a surprise as to what all could it accomplish. So for sure, interesting times ahead.
Yes. So once we get past this corona issue, I think we can look forward to some really exciting and innovative things in the pipeline. Even the government of India is trying so many new initiatives. If even 50% of them start bearing results, I think this country will change dramatically. But come to Neeraj now. Neeraj, what does Blue Prism, what kind of future view does Blue Prism talk about? Whether it is about business, or whether it is about society, or whether it is about the lifestyle. Is there
okay? So very simple. So very simple and sweet. So in Blue Prism, we have a rule of third, and third. So what we believe that for an enterprise to be ready with modern day challenges, it should have a third of human workforce, a third of systems, whatever systems are currently being used. So that can be core banking, CRM systems, ERMs or ERP systems, and a third of AI or digital workers that will be continuously working. Okay. And the vision of Blue Prism is very simple. How can we build automation very simply? Those could be managed centrally and comes with inbuilt security and intelligence. So it's very simple in Blue Prism.
And a lot of people from our colleagues have talked about governance becoming very important. What does Blue Prism talk about governance of digital workers?
Yes.
Or even human workers, if there is an angle.
Yeah. So now working with almost so many banking customers, the number one critical consideration to get into any BFSI is whatever your platform is capable of, does it stand to the test of security and compliance? So that is very And Blue Prism has been, pioneers in, having norms of security and compliance that, digital workers should follow, like data security, information security, credential management, encryption, and so on. A big topic to talk on. But long story short, whatever AI programs or AI algorithm that you are talking about, it has to adhere to the basic security frameworks and principles of any enterprises, and that is where Blue Prism has worked a lot, which is again a very broad topic of discussion.
So I would assume that a digital worker is much more security conscious than a human worker.
Yes.
But do Tarun, Prasanna, and Puneet agree, or do you have a different view?
I think, say example, in a I think digital worker has some advantages, right? Say example, in the COVID, we can always say be at home and do not come to office. So digital worker can go anywhere like a human robot or a robot, or they will work non-stop, right? They 24/7, even if the weather is not good, they will not have these corona-like problems wherein they can keep on working, right, in spite of any of those environmental challenges. Yeah.
Okay. And
Provided
Tarun?
they are fully charged up.
Yeah, provided the internet is on, provided all this, they are secure and so on. Absolutely.
Tarun, any thoughts on cybersecurity aspects of humans and
No, I agree.
digital workers?
Definitely. I mean, AI will play a major role there, especially in the information security, cybersecurity domain. For the other domains, while the work is ongoing, but there are areas where we see AI playing a role, but human sensitivities or objectivity, which needs to be incorporated, it will take some time, but we'll surely get there.
Okay. Because with all the increasing fraud and attacks on the financial sector, and human beings being perceived as the weakest part of the chain, it's
Yeah.
really important to find a way to control whatever does. And if digital worker helps, if each human worker has a digital assistant who is making sure that at least I'm not sharing passwords or whatever other weaknesses, that's perhaps a good, maybe a way to progress ahead. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Very enlightening discussion. I'm happy to see that it's moved from hype to reality.
Yes.
Looking forward to the magical reality that is going to come maybe in the next 1 or 2 years, which so many of you have talked about. Thank you all very much.